Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the meeting of the Lower Thames Crossing Task Force on Monday the 14th of November 2022. Please be aware the meeting is being recorded and live streamed, and a recording will be made available on the Council's website. I'm going to go straight in for apologies for absence. Lucy, do we have any apologies for absence?
Yeah, so we've had apologies from Councillor Onanaji, Councillor Salmons and Councillor Kent. We've also had apologies from Wesley Mercer, the Thurrock Business Board representative.
Thank you. Moving on to the minutes. I move that the minutes of the Lower Thames Crossing Task Force meeting held on the 17th of October 2022 be approved as a correct record. Are there any comments on the accuracy of the minutes? Councillor Raper.
Thank you. Can I just ask if we've had the current figure for economic growth that was promised to be sent to us beforehand?
Chris, would you like to comment on that? I don't have a particular comment on it.
We have received comments, the outstanding comments that we raised at the last meeting that was in person from National Highways. I'm not quite sure, Councillor, which particular economic forecast you're referring to. Could you be a little more explanatory, please?
Yes. We discussed the sort of projected figure for economic growth linked to the Lower Thames Crossing. And at the meeting, I was actually the person who raised this, and I asked what the current figure was. And the representative from National Highways said he didn't have it with him, but he would send it to us in writing. He would provide the figure in writing before the next meeting. And I just wondered if we had received that.
I'm just looking for it right now. We did certainly receive an answer from Tim Wright. Sorry if it's taken me a little while. I wasn't expecting the question, and perhaps I should have been. Colin, can you work it down at all?
It might take me a while as well, Chris. So I think from just to sort of answer the question as far as we can, and without going back and checking email records, we did receive a response, but I recall that we then were not satisfied that response provided sufficient depth to answer the questions that were raised, and we then sent a supplementary email back to National Highways asking for further information, and I'm not aware that we've yet received a response to that supplementary email we sent back asking for further clarifications.
Thank you.
Could you please circulate that to task force members when you do get an adequate response?
Yes, of course, absolutely.
Thank you. And Laura Blake.
Thank you, Chair. Just in regard to the minutes, I have emailed Lucy, but page 9 in the minutes, I'm quoted as saying asking if the road would be any safer if classified as a motorway, where I was actually asking how the all-purpose trunk road made LTC any safer than a smart motorway if it was being designed to smart motorway standards. I have emailed Lucy to ask for that to be amended. Thank you.
So with that change to the minutes there, and obviously the question from Councillor Raper, apart from that, are we all happy for those minutes to be agreed from the 17th of October? That's all agreed. Thank you, everyone. Declarations of interest. Does anyone wish to declare a declaration of interest, any agenda items this evening? Looking around the room, it's no's from everyone. Number 3, urgent items of business. I have not agreed to any items of urgent business this evening. I'm going to go into a couple of verbal updates that we have for this evening. Since the last task force meeting, National Highways have submitted a DCO, which we'll be talking about later in the meeting. But for now, going to hand over to Chris Stratford and Colin Black to present item 5, which is a health impact assessment verbal update.
Okay. Councillor McDowley is not there, is she?
Apologies, sent not this evening.
Ah, right, okay. Because it's her item. Well, up until the point of submission of the DCO version 2 on the 31st of October, the only update we had received was the 2 presentations that I've subsequently sent to the task force. Of course, now that we have the DCO documents, there is a updated health and equalities impact assessment. And it will be available on the PINS website, the Planning Inspectorate website, should the application be accepted by the Planning Inspectorate after the 28th of November. The council does have the documents, all of them. It's too large to circulate electronically, but we can make it available through a SharePoint site that Lucy can gain access to. So it's available, but it is quite extensive in its length and electronic size. So in a sense, we have now received the updated version. And of course, as part of the process of reviewing the DCO, should it be accepted, we would provide a series of detailed comments and the council's opinion about its adequacy.
Thank you, Chris. If that could, if that could be circulated, that'd be fantastic. The moment I found the link online, I signposted Councillor Muldowney to it within seconds, so I know she'd be very eager to see it.
Okay.
Do you think it would be possible in early next year, that'd be in say January, February, that would be enough time for you to be able to give us a more detailed feedback on it?
Yes, possibly. We will beginning if the application is accepted by the Planning Inspectorate on the 28th of this month. We will then be spending December, January, February and probably March preparing our local impact report. At what point our assessment of that document will be available, I'm not entirely certain, but certainly February, March would be quite a reasonable target.
Okay, thank you for that. I think that is a reasonable target. That's really good to hear. There is actually some information now out there which is on the Planning Inspector's website that the public.
Well, it's not there yet. It's not there yet, but it will be after the 28th if they accept it.
So another 2 weeks to find out on that.
Indeed.
Any members want to ask any questions on this agenda item? No, I think that's that. Oh, sorry, Laura Blake.
Yeah, sorry. Chris, could I just double check with you on that? Are you saying that there will be additional documents, like in addition to the ones that are up there now?
No.
Oh, sorry. When you said it will be available on the 28th, I was getting a little bit confused there. I thought you meant there've been.
It'll be available publicly on the 28th on the PINS website. That's the intention.
The documents all went up on Friday on PINS. That's why I'm a little bit confused.
Did they? Okay, I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't been checking. Fine. In which case they're available now. Then fine.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you. I was just getting a bit confused there. Thought there might be more coming. I was going to say there's enough already. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Laura. Just before we go on to the next agenda item, I'm just going to call for a short adjournment, please. Thank you. I'd like to reconvene the meeting of the Lower Thames Crossing Task Force on Monday, the 14th of November 2022. We have an item on the agenda, which is a DCO submission, a verbal update. Chris Stratford and Colin Black to present. Just to let you know, a councillor has had to leave the meeting room and so we're in Cora as of now.
Okay. Colin, do you want to introduce or do you want me to?
I'm more than happy for you to carry on, Chris, where we left off.
Okay, fine. Well, the update is that the DCO version 2 submission was formally submitted by National Highways on the 31st of October, and consequently, following that, they have decided to do something that they haven't done in the past, which is to release all of the DCO documents online, and they are available on the PINS website, and I can supply a link to that website should you need it, and you can look at the documents. There are, I'm guessing, I won't number the documents, but there are 63,000 pages evidently, which is approximately 33 metres of shelf space. It's a big document, and the first action in the next 15 to 18 months of process of considering that application is for the council, along with other host boroughs directly affected, to submit to the planning inspectorate, who administer the whole process, a representation called adequacy of consultation. That is due on Wednesday, the 16th of November, and then PINS receive all of those and consider them all, and on the 28th of November we'll make a decision as to whether to accept the application or to not accept it. If it is not accepted, then there's no need really to review the documents because they need revision. It is entirely possible that they could also ask for further information because it's not adequate, and that postpones the decision. But if they do decide to accept it, there is a formal process to follow. And that process will last about 15 to 18 months. It's a little bit indistinct. Some things are very well defined and some aren't. And that process will start with the appointment of the panel, probably 5 inspectors who will be responsible for reviewing and undertaking the examination. And that will happen, I think, in early December. Then that panel will then set about the enormous task of reviewing all the documents. And that's where the process is a little indistinct in terms of time period. It will take 3 to 5 months for them to do that. So we are expecting that process to be concluded around about April of next year, which means then the planning inspectorate then set up a preliminary meeting which begins the formal process. That's likely to be April or May, and that will formally timetable the entire process, and it will set out the timetable for the 6-month-long examination. That will probably be preceded by a series of questions, written questions, to be responded to in writing, both to the applicant and to local authorities and to other stakeholders. A number of applications, large ones like this, like Tideway, like HS2, like Sizewell, have had many hundreds of questions issued to them in a series of cycles. And once those questions are issued, you only have 3 weeks in which to respond to them. And that response may be a paragraph long. It could be many, many pages long. The examination, I would expect, would probably start in June in order to complete it in the 6-month period by December. But it's not my decision, it's the planning inspectorate's decision. When the examination is finished, let's assume it's December next year, the planning inspectorate then have 3 months in which to make their recommendations. And their recommendation report is usually a few hundred pages, and that goes to government. And in this case, the responsible department is the Department for Transport. the Department for Transport and the Secretary of State for that, which is currently Mark Harper. He has 3 months in which to make a decision as to whether to accept whatever the recommendations of the Planning Inspectorate might be, and they're not made public, or to not accept them. And therefore, I'm expecting some decision from government, one way or the other, by about the middle of 2024. So then when it comes to how you make representations, this whole process is largely written. They ask questions, you write back. But there are a number of in-person hearings, or possibly even virtual hearings, that might take place during the examination on a range of topics such as air quality, noise, traffic modelling, I suspect, and a few others. And those can be in person. But prior to all of that taking place, and I said I would brief the task force in due time, there is an opportunity to register as an interested party. Now, the council and main statutory consultees such as Natural England, Historic England and the like, and the Blue Light emergency services, all are automatically part of that process. But if you are the Thames Crossing Action Group, for instance, or an individual, you will need to register. And once you register, you will then receive regular updates through the Planning Inspectorate. And you will be entitled to register your written views and attend the hearings if necessary. That's all. The process for doing all of that is set out in the Planning Inspectorate's advice notes, and I'll provide a summary of that in due time with links to those documents should you want to read them in full. So that's the process, and the council has now drafted and going through governance the adequacy of consultation response. Is that adequate, Councillor Fraser? Councillor?
Yes, thank you, Chris. Just to clarify, sorry, the period of time, the window, so to speak, of when an individual or a group can register an interest, how long is that window?
Oh, that's a very good question. It's probably several months long. Laura seems to know the answer. You're on mute.
Laura?
Thank you. I think Penn said that it has to be a minimum of 30 days, but it is usually longer.
Yeah. It's just that during the period where we're producing our local impact report and the planning inspectors themselves are reading it all and reviewing it, that's the time in which you can register your interests. So it usually is, like Laura says, it's a minimum period, but it's actually usually much longer. And we'll give plenty of lead time for that to happen. And we can publish it on the council website too.
Thank you. Just before I go over to Laura, and you can also, it's effectively reserving your right to speak later. So even,
it is indeed. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll pass over to Laura.
Thank you. I was just going to add in there, as well as registering as an interested party, members of the public can currently register for updates on the Planning Inspectorate's website. So if you go through and put your email address in, the Planning Inspectorate will also let you know at the appropriate time when they are accepting and how to apply to become an interested party, just in case that helps anybody.
Okay. I've just checked the website, the Planning Inspectorate website, and the developer's application totals 554 documents. Didn't know how many they'd actually broken it down to. So that's the number of documents. And they do actually label them, and you can show anything from 10 to 100 on your screen at any one time. But it goes on for quite a few screens.
I think Laura Blake has a hand raised.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just jump in there and say as well, for anyone that is attempting to go and look at the documents, the filter option, where it's like a little search engine within that the documents is very helpful. You can put in keywords and it's quite helpful to bring up some initial documents I've found so far.
Yes, it does mention at the top of the website, it says the following: if the application is accepted, you will be able to register and express your views during the registration and relevant representation stage and the subsequent examination. Further detail on this process is provided in Advice Note 8.2, and there is a link to that. But I was planning, there are 6 sub parts to that Advice Note 8.1 to 8.6. I was planning to give a task force paper, possibly in December even, just setting out a summary of those. So by all means look at it, but it's I'm hoping to make it easy for everybody in time.
Thank you, Chris. I think I mentioned it last meeting, but I know you mentioned groups there. Groups can be anything from local scout groups to dance schools and businesses as well, and everything in between. Is that right?
Yep, and individuals. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a group. It can be individuals. Particularly anyone's land or property that's affected, that tends to be given quite a lot of attention to that.
But as this is a national infrastructure, I'm guessing anyone in the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland can also make comment. Is that right? Or register to be able to make a comment at a later date?
Yeah, anyone can. Yeah, yeah. It's not restricted to a local area. No.
Any comments or questions from anyone else in the room or online? No, I think that's it from us for this evening. There are no other comments or questions at the moment. I'm not going to go through the work programme tonight. I'll wait for a future meeting. So at 18:33, that concludes the business of the meeting this evening, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much, everyone. See you soon.